Welcome back to the Skating Penguin Network, everyone. It is the evening of December 17th, a Tuesday night here. At least it's night out here in the East Coast. It's getting night out where Snail is on the West Coast, who, of course, joins me as always. And we're going to dive right into it. The Penguins just wrapped up their game with the Los Angeles Kings at PPG Paints Arena. And in the course of a season, if the Penguins are to make the playoffs in the spring, this will be one of the games that we look back on as maybe it was one of the signs that the Penguins were righting the ship, because this Snail was a very good Kings team that came into Pittsburgh tonight, a very hot Kings team that came into Pittsburgh, and a very stingy Kings team that came into Pittsburgh. They do not give up a lot of goals. They had two leads. The Penguins tied it twice. Ricard Raquel is the overtime hero. But I just think that this is one of those games where, okay, the Penguins are good enough to beat up on bad teams, but they came out tonight against a good Kings team. It didn't matter if you gave up a point in this game because the Kings are in the West, but you find a way to get two, and it just everything that you kind of felt like was wrong with the Penguins for at times this season, they kind of squashed all that tonight and were able to get a very, very significant win against the Kings.
Yeah, not a win that I saw them getting. Honestly, I this is a game that I feel like has, especially with some of the play that we saw from the Penguins tonight. This is a game where they piss away 2 points typically,
Mm-hmm.
and especially seeing them get to overtime. Sometimes I feel like the Penguins get it to overtime and they think the job is done. They got a point, and then they, you know, let in a soft goal or something in overtime. Not to rag on them because they got 2 points. I am happy they won, but yeah, historically this is a game that typically they piss away or find a way to maybe get 1 point. They battle like hell to get 1 point, and then
Mm-hmm.
overtime usually never goes their way. But uh, yeah, an interesting game. Robbie, I texted you while we were watching this, and I said it like kind of at times reminded me of like a Pee Wee hockey game, and I guess to kind of that's not supposed to be like I'm not that's not a huge dig. The LA Kings are just very stingy, and they really find a way to throw um they disrupt like the flow of play. Like there wasn't a lot of track meet like back and forth that we're typically used to seeing. The Penguins kind of breed that type of game. But that's what the Kings are good at doing is disrupting and putting a stop to momentum, and that's what I was seeing a lot today. They're not the biggest team in the world, but they're
Mm-hmm.
still kind of in that same breed of California West Coast hockey team from days of old, where they still play stingy, physical, and they got some players that can hurt you like they've always had. And I'm sure we'll get to some of them here in the uh, coming up here pretty soon after we go over the scoring summary. But happy they got 2 points, like you said. Yeah, if the Penguins do manage to find their way into a playoff spot, which we all, let's be honest, we all had the missing playoffs this year, but this will be one of those games where, yeah, the 2 points, not leaving any points on the table, a team that's not in their conference or their division even. Yeah, this will be one of those games that you look back on and be like, they needed that extra point in overtime. So I thought Ned
Absolutely.
looked good. I thought the first line was the Crosby line was, not factoring in on the score sheet. Well, they did factor in on the score sheet.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they could have had maybe 3 or 4 goals, maybe
Yeah.
against any other team. Kemper's a big goaltender, but
Oh yeah.
Sid, Gino looked good out there. The stars were dancing. Dude, Eric Carlson. Oh, I don't know. Kind of a typical Eric Carlson game where he
Yeah.
factors in on the winner and you love him, but dude, I couldn't hold my tongue at certain points watching him play. I was curious as to did he forget which jersey he had on. So let's get to the scoring summary though, shall we?
You truly got the full Eric Carlson experience in this one, and we'll
Oh
talk
yeah.
about that here in a second. But one of the Penguins' big issues struck very early in this game. A goal on the first shot. Um,
And it
it,
wasn't Jari.
yeah, it wasn't Jari. It was actually Alex Nedeljkovic. Um, that had this goof here, but Anze Kopitar, he of who he is, future Hall of Famer, makes a great feed to a wide open Andre Kempe, who was basically on the top of the crease, and he just poked it, uh, just tapped it right past Nadalkovic, who had no idea where the puck went. It's 1-0, just 33 seconds into this game, and you're already thinking, again, we're conditioned to this point. It's going to be a long night. But the Penguins buckled down. They buckled down in this one. They don't get the equalizer, though, until 6:22 of the second period. Finally, Evgeny Malkin gets back on the score sheet. He kind of redirects in a Michael Bunting shot, pass, whatever you want to call it. But it doesn't matter. It goes behind Darcy Kemper. The goal counts. Malkin was actually wrecked after this and just kind of blew off the goal, and Kemper went flying. And I'm surprised there wasn't more of a melee, but neither here nor there. You're feeling good, but roughly 5 minutes later, Alex Turcotte gives the Kings the lead back at 11:38 of the second period. And I know that the Kings are stingy. I didn't feel good they were going to get another one. The Penguins were, but I was proven wrong, but it took quite a while. 14:25, so just over 5 minutes left in this game. Matt Grzelcyk, he should just become a winger. We joke about making Erik Karlsson a
Yeah.
winger. We should maybe first make Matt Grzelcyk strictly a winger because he's much more interested in doing offensive stuff than defensive stuff. He gets his first goal of the year on a beautiful pass by Sidney Crosby. Just
Oh,
feeds him and wide open. Grzelcyk really walks right down to the dot on the left-hand side and fires it past Kemper. And Grzelcyk actually coming into this game was the NHL points leader for players that had no goals on the season. He had 15. He led everybody by, I think, at least 2 points. But he
wow.
comes off that list now, and
What a
I'm
stat.
sure, I'm sure he is more than happy to be um, in the goal column now. A big goal, and it felt like this point that they were going to be able to get at least a point out of this. They did have a power play opportunity briefly before Erik Karlsson decided he wanted none of that. He goes to the box to negate the Penguins' late power play. The game does get to overtime. Rickard Rakell, a beautiful deflection off a Erik Karlsson pass. If you actually go back and watch the replay of the goal, Karlsson actually holds the puck at the blue line until Rakell gets into the shooting space. So great play by Karlsson just to kind of wait and get that puck on net. Rakell, good in front of the net, obviously a sniper, but he gets the deflection on this one past Kemper. It's 3-2. The Penguins pour off the bench. And for the first time since October 16th, October the 18th, the Penguins have as many wins as they do losses. This is, of course, discounting the 5 overtime losses. If you're looking at just strictly wins
Yeah.
and losses, they have 14 wins, 14 losses. The first time they've been, I guess, quote unquote, 500 in almost 2 months. So if they can win on Thursday, they'll be over 500 for the first time in over 2 months. The NHL does not count overtime losses as regular losses. Like they don't go into losing streaks or anything like that. So that's why it's separate. So the Penguins, they were down for a very long time. They were. I mean, we were less than 3 weeks ago heading into Thanksgiving, and the Penguins were coming off a dreadful stretch against the Lightning. They had gotten boat raced at home by the Jets and Utah Hockey Club by a combined score of 10-2. They find a way then. They win a game before Thanksgiving. They win a game in Boston. They get a game against Calgary, and then they beat the Panthers to open December. They have a 4-game winning streak. They've lost twice in regulation in December, once in overtime. But other than that, they've been winning hockey games since Thanksgiving, and that is uh, the biggest story here. The Penguins are just winning hockey games. Simple as that. And now they are in position as we get closer to Christmas and the New Year here. Again, still hockey to play, but they've put themselves in the conversation, which if you would have told me that 3 weeks ago, I would have said no way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Robbie, we were like having trade deadline discussions in like mid-November, which is just a
Yep.
bad place to be as a that's a scary place to be as a hockey fan. Penguins fans certainly aren't used to that in this day and age. Um, but yeah, the it feels like a different team. I'm not gonna lie, even like maybe depending on the opponent a little bit, but barring any sort of like insane goalie the Penguins are going up against, it just feels like there's hardly ever a game anymore that the Penguins aren't out of. Where, you know, 2 months ago, there or let's say even like a month ago, uh, it was tough for the Penguins to hold. They could get on the board quick, but they couldn't hold a lead. Nothing ever felt safe. Not the case right now with this Penguins club. Like you just
Yeah.
feel. I mean, they were down and they had pretty much the whole period to go. They had a lot of reasons to wilt and sulk, but they kept coming. I liked Sullivan. He kept throwing the Crosby line out there, and you know Sullivan does that. He throws out whoever he thinks is humming, and usually it's pretty obvious as a viewer who those lines are. And he
Yeah.
was given Sid ample opportunity. He was on the doorstep so many times, setting up Russ too. Uh, yeah, this team right now, like you said, is playing better. They're not great. They still suffer like those just mental lapses and
Yeah.
those weird little. They're not a perfect club by any means,
No.
but you know, part of that's been Jari's return to somewhat of a resemblance of form.
Yeah.
You know, Nedeljkovic, he's the backup now, and he's a decent backup. Um, boy, I don't know. Carlson is one of those guys that every game I watch of him, I feel like I have a new opinion on him. Um, Carlson's defensive play has picked up tonight. He didn't. He forgot what defense meant. But you know, it's been this accumulation of like, you know, the stars never really stopped playing, but this youth has been playing well. The goaltending's picked up a little bit. Carlson's giving just, you know, 15% more on defense, and Letang is as well, and providing offense. And yeah, and when you get a team of veterans like this together mixed with some youth, I guess this is what the outcome is. And you're in these games, you're never really out of them.
Yeah, and as of this writing or as of this recording, again, it could be different by the time you listen to this on or on Wednesday morning. The Penguins currently hold the second wild card spot.
Oh my
They
god.
are current now. We're waiting on finals from the Rangers, who are in Nashville, currently losing as this is being recorded,
Oh, that
and
is music to
after
my ears.
and
Losing to
after
Nashville?
yeah, and after this is recorded, the Ottawa Senators are in Snail's backyard this evening with a late start my time out here on the East Coast. It'd be a 7 o'clock start in Snail's time, but the Ottawa Senators are in Seattle tonight, at which that game could affect where the Penguins sit by the time you listen to this on Thursday. But the fact that as we record this, the Penguins having defeated the Los Angeles Kings 3-2 in overtime do hold a playoff spot or in a playoff position as of right now. Just a remarkable thing to say after what we were talking about, let's say, 3 weeks ago around Thanksgiving time. Pretty incredible. And at this rate, we're going to be going into the new year at least thinking that we have to be believing they're going to at least be in this conversation heading into the new year, which is obviously more than we could say, like I said, as early as or as late as Thanksgiving. So the Penguins just keep finding ways to win. Thursday night is another massive opportunity to the point where games this time of year are tough to call must wins, but Nashville is a bad hockey team. Um, you have to go and get 2 points out of that game. And then kind of throw caution to the wind on Saturday in New Jersey. But then you have the Flyers at home on Monday. The points are there for the Penguins, wrapping up the year here. If I'm doing the math right, I believe there are only games remaining against a team in playoff positioning. Uh, as of right now, is New Jersey on Saturday. You have a home and home with the Islanders, and then you got to go to Detroit to wrap up the year. But the opportunities are there for the Penguins. I know we're doing a lot of looking ahead, but it's fun to look ahead now that the Penguins are actually winning games rather than uh, uh, when we were looking
Yeah.
ahead thinking can they suck enough to get the number one overall pick.
Oh God, I know. Well, before looking ahead, there's actually something you can look forward to. Every game has a little bit more meaning as opposed to just a slog of catching up to do and digging yourself out of this hole. So, yeah, it's in the Penguins. Let's be honest, like they frustrated us, and I've gotten, certainly can speak for myself, gotten down at times watching this team, but dude, Sid's doing it at, what is it, 36? Malkin,
Yep.
a year older, I believe. I don't know. It's just it's they're a fun team to watch when things are going well. So, and I think we've strown from that because they can frustrate the hell out of us. But yeah, the like you said, the points are there for them, and you have to think that guys like Sid, the veterans on this team, seeing them in a playoff spot for the first time in God knows how long,
Yeah.
that has to be motivating for them. Like, maybe the voices get a little bit stronger and louder in the locker room, being like, fellas, like let's hang on to this. Like why let this go? Let's go into the new year and let's get a couple point lead on some of these guys. That's what I would think is going on
Yeah.
with the competitiveness of this group.
Yeah.
And you got to think that that'll just boost and provide them, uh, a little bit more gusto coming forward. But I'm gonna try not to get too far ahead of myself
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
because this Penguins team could piss away 3 games in a row with one game being bad play, one game getting goalied, and a third
Yeah.
game, an
Losing like
overtime
eight
loss.
8 to 9 or something like that,
Yeah, or
and then
something like
while
that.
blowing like a 4 goal lead or something like that.
Yes,
Um,
precisely.
yeah.
Let's that is on the table just as much as as there is opportunity, there is that. But it'll be interesting to see. And Robbie, I think we should touch on this before we move on too much further. I think it's safe to say that them pulling off this win tonight is a plus. It's great. You'll take it, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult going forward with the absence of Marcus Pettersson, who after that game in
Yeah.
Ottawa took that awkward fall. Marcus Pettersson he's kind of an interesting looking fellow. He doesn't look like the toughest guy out there. He's Swedish too, but he played all 82 games, I believe, last year, and he's also
Mhm.
um, he is he logs a lot of minutes. I mean, he's a first pairing defenseman, and
Yeah.
he is out week to week, and that could mean 2 weeks. That typically that means I would say probably like 3 to 4 weeks. They didn't disclose obviously what happened. He didn't have to undergo any surgery, which is good. But that was a bad looking fall, and the Penguins are going to have to find a way to fill up those minutes, those precious minutes he plays, with people chipping in, and it's going to be tough. It's tough to replace a guy like that on the back end.
Absolutely. The Pedersen again. They wavered. Uh, they wavered the Storm this evening, but they're going to have to do that for another couple weeks. This is Owen Pickering. This is your time, kid. Hopefully, he can give us even 50% of what Pedersen does, and they can just kind of waver the Storm as much as possible. The Kings, not a high flying offensive threat, but I think we'll get a better lesson in what he means to the team on Saturday night against the Devils. So hopefully he can come back sooner rather than later. I think week to week for Brian Rust earlier this year was 8 games. So I would not expect to see Marcus Pettersson before 2025. But yeah, you just hope that it's sooner rather than later because as the Penguins are playing like this, he's going to remain on the team. Unless they get a deal that would completely blow them away. And they're even if they're a fringe playoff team, I think that he's going to remain in Pittsburgh as long as they're good. So, and speaking of Swedes here, I know the Penguins we talked about. They're playing good now. They struggled earlier this year. One player who has not struggled at all this year is the guy that Snail picked to score 31 goals, Ricky Raquel. He's at 14 this year. There's I'd say a greater than 50% chance that he is over halfway to that mark by the time we hit the new year. I did a little math here while Snail was talking. He's on pace for 35. Um, it doesn't matter. He scores. He's just in last year. I think this year is just a complete 180, obviously, and I think it just kind of gives us more evidence that he was hurt. The shoulder never healed after his early season injury. Um, why he's not on Team Sweden for the Four Nations face-off, I don't know. Hopefully he can keep this up when we see him in the Olympics next year, because he deserves a spot wearing the three crowns and the blue and yellow of Team Sweden right now. The dude is just going off. Tonight was a non-typical Raquel goal. The deflection, he's usually a sniper, but Carlson put it on the platter for him, and he got a stick on it and got it by Kemper. And it's really, if you were picking an all-star team for the Penguins, if they were sending all-stars this year, to me, he would be your number one representative for the Penguins. I know Crosby is kind of like the default if he's healthy, but you can't ignore what Raquel's done this year, and he does it. He just shows up again tonight, gets another one, 14. He just keeps finding ways to get the puck in the net.
Yeah, this is the player that they re-signed and were expecting to get, and he's a sniper and knows how to put the puck in the net. And last year, clearly hindered by injury and not probably being able to really get in the flow of games. Who knows? Probably gingerly trying to shoot pucks. And this year he seems healthy because he's never taking he's never missing an opportunity to get pucks on net, and they're going in for him. And like I said before, he's scoring in different ways. He's not just a power play merchant or a kind of like he doesn't have an office per se, which isn't necessarily it's not the worst thing to kind of have like like they say, have an office on the ice.
Yeah.
But he gets in front of the net. I mean, I didn't know he could tip pucks like that. He can score down low. He can score from weird angles. He's just a crafty goal scorer, and I love what we're seeing from him right now. And I'm just taking a quick peek at the Swedish Four Nations face-off, and I understand that that these teams, they're kind of trying to pick more well-rounded rosters, like constructing a full, a complete roster as opposed to, like you said, Robbie, an all-star team.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at some of these forwards, and I'm like, Elias Pettersson hasn't had the greatest year, but it would be weird to leave him off. Philip Forsberg not having a great year in Nashville. I'd probably take Raquel over Forsberg right now. Historically, no, but in this instance, probably. Willie Nylander, can't really fault that. Jesper Bratt, I don't know.
Bratt's having a pretty good year.
He's having a pretty good year.
All these guys do a little bit different things too than, not everybody's. But my big one is Mika Zibanejad.
Did they pick him?
I'm pretty sure Zibanejad made the team.
Oof, that's one that you might. Oh yeah, they did. They did pick.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one you might want to rebuttal on, because they both are right shots. The only thing is Zibanejad plays center, and I don't know. Raquel's these guys are so good. It's so funny. It's like you don't think Raquel can step in and take a draw. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys. I mean, Arvidsson. Is Victor Arvidsson really better than Rickard Raquel?
No, he's always hurt.
Yeah, Forsberg's gonna be. Well, Forsberg was one of the original picks too. Like him and Zibanejad were two of the early announcements when they came out. So was Willie Nylander. Kempe scored tonight. Kempe's a really good player. Kempe has 16 goals this year. Yeah, Kempe's an easy selection there. I just feel like Raquel, I don't know. I can't say for sure why he was passed over, so I'm not going to speculate. But if somebody goes down before the tournament, I think he has to be your, assuming it's not a defenseman, if it's a forward, he has to be your pick.
Yeah, totally. I think he would be. And I guarantee you he's going to be on the Olympic team.
The way he's playing right now, because I think if you do a do-over, and again, those 5 guys that were picked before the season, or before, I think it was summer even, if you go back and do it over again, are you really probably putting Mika Zibanejad as one of your first 5 players picked? No. The other ones, I think, obviously Karlsson, just because he's Erik Karlsson. Nylander had a fantastic year last year. He's an easy pick. A lot of these guys are simple, but yeah, if you could go back and redo it, I think you'd have some different selections. Though. But hey, Raquel is scoring for the Penguins, and that's all I really care about right now. Maybe
Yeah,
gets him a 2-week rest in February. So that is what
true.
it is. Yeah.
It is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
uh,
Penguins, yeah,
Swedes factoring into the win tonight, and
they were, yeah, the Swedes team up for the game winner. Um, and Raquel has another assist in there as well. So a big night for Team Sweden in the Penguins camp. So the Penguins win 3-2 in overtime, a comeback victory. They come back twice in this game. They are 14-14-5 on the season. They are, as of this recording, in a playoff position for the first time probably since October. But yeah, the Penguins turnaround has been something to behold. Great, great victory tonight. But before we put a bow on this, we did have a mailbag scheduled. We're going to answer. We have 7 questions this week. Um, so we're going to answer we're going to answer 3 tonight. We'll answer the rest on Thursday night after the Penguins take on the Predators. So I'm just going to kick it off here. I'm going to ask Snail the first question, and he can answer it. And it's from Brian. We have 6 from Brian, 1 from Ed Helsinki. So we'll start with this question from Brian, and he said, um, "Who would you give the Calder? Who would you award the Calder to if the season ended today? The Calder Trophy, of course, being top rookie. So, Snail, who would you be presenting the Calder to if the season ended today?"
I'm giving it to Matvei Michkov. I think Celebrini, he's making a case for himself for sure. Like Celebrini is a stud,
Yeah,
but Michkov just scores overtime winners, and he's trying the Michigan, and he's kind of chippy, and I don't know. And it's yeah, he's across the state, your guys' state in
yeah,
Philadelphia, the last team that I want to see prosper and get new young talent like Michkov, but he wanted to go to the Flyers. They decided to pick him up,
yep.
and they fell to him in the draft, and he is just shoving it where the sun don't shine on
He does.
whoever passed him up, because that dude has the clutch gene. I think that kid might be a real deal, the second coming of Giroux, whatever you want to call it. Like that's a hell of a player. Robbie, who you got as a
Just
Calder
to give
winner?
a different answer, I'm going to say Macklin Celebrini. And that Sharks team is not far away from being a very good hockey team. Obviously, not this year.
Shockingly.
Shockingly, they're not. I don't think they're going. They're not going to be a playoff team this year. But I could see them within 2 to 3 years being kind of like the early or late 2000s, early 2010s Blackhawks if they
Mm,
get the right personnel there. They have the young pieces. They if they can find the goaltender, because they were the ones that traded for that goalie from Nashville that was supposed to
Askarov,
be,
yeah.
yeah, he was supposed to be the stud. If he develops, yeah, and I'm just yeah, I think Michkov is probably the choice right now, but just to be a little bit different, I'm going to say Max Celebrini. So all
Yeah,
right,
can't argue with that at all. So, um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Um, but yeah, that like you said, that San Jose team, they're actually like kind of fun to watch. Like they don't seem
yeah,
like a team that's, they're definitely on the rise at this point, and that organization with Greer at the helm have turned it around. Dude, Mikael Granlund, former Penguin, is having a hell of a season. They're talking about him being like contenders should be looking at him to pick him up. And
yeah. I mean,
he's lighting it
absolutely.
up this year in San Jose
I'm pretty sure he's going to the Four Nations face-off as a member of
for
Team
Finland.
Finland.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, last year they were so bad. Last year he was kind of a, well, somebody has to get our points kind of team leader. But this year it looks like he's actually producing at a sustainable pace that um, could definitely benefit a contender in the future. So kind of turned it around after. I mean, he was bad in Pittsburgh, just downright
It was
awful.
bad.
Yeah,
I wonder if he was hurt or something.
I don't know, but he has seemed to have turned it around a little bit out there. And yeah, the Sharks are a fun young team as opposed to even being able to tune in and watch the Blackhawks with Bedard. The Blackhawks are a bad young team, so it's definitely a huge difference when watching either team. I'd rather watch the Sharks because they're a little bit better hockey team, but they have the young guns out there as well. So really, really fun hockey team.
Yeah, I agree. But I was just cracking up. I read Ed Helsinki's question here. I'm going to dish this over to you, Robbie.
Yeah.
Ed asks, which Penguin players, coaches, or front office personnel might be receiving lumps of coal from Santa?
Well, if you asked me this at Thanksgiving, I probably would have answered it much differently than I would right now. I don't want to seem like I'm picking on him, but I guess Matt Nieto has not been great. Eric Carlson, depending on the night, uh, or maybe the shift, even he
Yes.
could get Mike Sullivan at one point, Tristan Jarry at one point. But right now, I still think you'd have to give it to Jarry. Hasn't fully redeemed himself enough yet. Mike Sullivan, there's still some bizarre decisions. I still don't know why Jesse Puljujarvi's not getting more of a run. I wish he would. Matt Grzelcyk, anytime he's behind his own blue line, it's just an absolute disaster. It's just make him a forward before Carlson even. Just make him an absolute forward. I'm trying to think of some other
I'm
Ryan
trying to
Graves.
think who's like the
Ryan
whipping
Graves.
boy. Yeah, Ryan
Ryan Graves.
Graves.
Ryan Graves still is the whipping boy. It just hasn't worked. It just hasn't worked out in Pittsburgh at all. Even with they tried sheltering him, putting him on healthy, scratching him. It just nothing seems to be working. That's probably Ryan Graves is probably the right answer here as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, as far as it's hard to dish out Cole when you're riding the high of a Penguins 2-point win over the LA Kings, but God, I don't know. Like,
It would have been Michael Bunting at one point.
I was just gonna actually bring up a scenario with Michael Bunting. Is anyone mad at Dubas right now? Does Dubas deserve Cole? I don't think so anymore.
Not right now.
I think trade deadline last year, I was ready to give him Cole
I
for
think
life.
everybody was about ready to give him something last year. We were not thrilled about the Gensel deal, but
He's lighting it up in Tampa Bay. He's having an absolute.
He is. He's having an outstanding year, and I think and I'm happy for it because I think it finally proves that he's not the Crosby product.
No, I can't believe that was an argument.
I mean, obviously he benefited from playing with Crosby, but so have like a dozen other guys.
Dude, can we bring up Dominic Simone?
Well,
noted Crosby winger.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back at Crosby's wingers throughout his career, it's pretty remarkable that he has the assist numbers he does because he didn't have a legit goal-scoring winger until 2017. Like, think about that. He had the cup of coffee with Hossa, but other than that, again, Kunitz is a phenomenon in Pittsburgh. He will always be a legend in the city, but nothing compared to just the pure goal-scoring talent of Jake Gensel. Again, if Hossa plays here, I think Hossa is a perennial 50-goal scorer throughout his career with Crosby.
Do you think they get another cup?
It's I'd have to almost go back and look at what could have been done with that cap number on what would have had to shift around. But I think with Hossa, they do win another cup before 2016.
You know what year I think about when I think about Hossa and winning another cup was I think it was 2014 where they loaded up with a Ginla and they had a Ginla and James Neal. They played Boston in the conference final.
That was 2013.
2013. If they had Hossa, imagine Sid, Hossa, Ginla. Oh,
absolutely. Oh. Yeah, that was
and then Malkin and Neal and I don't know, Tyler Kennedy or something.
Yeah, but
they might have parted ways with him by then. But I think about that
exactly.
I think about that Hossa deal, and had he stuck around, and God, and then that year they got a Ginla just for a cup of coffee. I was just like, that was the year they might have been able to get it done. Was Vokoun the goalie that year?
It was supposed to be Fleury, but Vokoun was the one that ended up playing in the playoffs. Yeah,
that's right. Sheesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, lump of coal to whoever didn't get a Ginla signed long term for just the rest of his career.
Okay, one more tonight before we wrap it up. Tanner Howe, Penguins draft pick, made the Team Canada World Junior roster. With the way he's developing, could we expect him to vie for a roster spot next season?
Yeah, congrats to him on making the World Juniors. It's been a while, Robbie, since the
It
Penguins
has,
have had some like prospects in these tournaments. Not
yeah,
just prospects, but prospects playing in the All-Star team type format that
yeah,
is the World Juniors, repping their country. Um, Something tells me that he's gonna make a bit of a push for a roster spot next year. I could see him, there's gonna probably be roster spots open for youth next year. I
yeah,
wouldn't be surprised if he, you know, like a lot of prospects, he might get a sniff with Crosby in like a preseason game or two, and then he'll be a bottom six player, and then they'll probably send him back down. But um, let's take a look. I know that they made a big trade with him. Like they traded him to the Regina Pats. They're not a good team anymore, so they traded him to the Calgary Hitmen, who are loading up, looking to make a big run, a deep run this year. When the God, what is it called? Memorial Cup comes around. Since he's been traded, let's see, he's played 6 games. He's got 3 goals and 6 assists for 9 points. He's playing with a lot better players around him. Where this season, prior to that trade, he had played 10 games and had just 7 points. So, I mean, he's gonna playing with better players will only if you're a good player, playing with better players will make you better. If he shows out in the World Juniors, Robbie, like and gets
yeah.
on the radar, like
Oh
really
yeah,
gets on the radar. If there is a buzz about Tanner Howe in some aspect, uh, I mean, people will have eyes on him the rest of the season. And then when it comes around to the off season and the Penguins go into their, those doldrums of summer and then training camp start up, there's gonna be a buzz around Tanner Howe and how he's looking. And yeah, I just think that he's a little bit undersized, but in the current game right now, if you have the smarts and if you can kind of avoid getting hurt all the time, undersized players can make it in the NHL now, and I think he's got quite a bit of speed to him, and that's a Penguins trait that you need to be on this roster apparently, and at least that's what they've said for so long. So if he can think the game smart, which it's a different game coming from juniors to the pro level, but um, he's proving he can play and produce with better players right now in the WHL, and if he can take that leap next year, a lot of what ifs, but I mean, well, I think that he's got to finish out this year and see how this tournament goes and all that, but he's a second round pick for a reason. I think he was playing with Bedard at one point, wasn't he? And like,
yeah,
uh, I wouldn't be shocked if I'd have to probably not to be too much of a nerd, but I'd probably have to look and see who's coming off the books this year and what those bottom six
yeah,
like
yeah.
spots are looking like. But there's gonna be prospects pushing for NHL roster spots as soon as this coming off season.
That's
So
kind of the whole plan. Like the full, they're not doing a full rebuild. They're getting these guys now with the idea that they're going to contribute during this Malkin Crosby era still. So like there is, I mean, yeah, Brenneke I think is as good as penciled in next year, assuming health. Howe is going to be in that conversation.
McGroarty's gonna be trying to
McGroarty's going
push
to
for a
be in that
spot.
conversation. Bros is going to be in that conversation. Um,
I think
big
Bros deserves a look now, but yeah,
Yeah, Big Bo. We need to get Big
Big
Bo.
Bo
We need to get Big Bo an NHL contract. He scored an overtime winner the other night. Um,
just having a
so
year.
yeah, what a year for the guy we did not even think about. We didn't even we had to like remember some guys before the season is now like our meme player of the year. Please
Yeah,
sign him, Kyle. When you listen to this tomorrow, please sign Big Bo Kachuk to at least a 1-day contract so we can get him some shifts with Crosby.
just get him a
Uh,
look.
yes, but anyway, that's 3 questions. We'll answer the rest on Thursday night.
I have a
Uh,
question for you, dude. What happened to Vinny Hinostroza?
he was again. I think last year he was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he was
Um,
here last year for just like a brief
yeah.
stint.
I know he was with the Baby Penguins most of the year, and I don't know where he's playing now. He could be in Europe for all I know. Um, so yeah, I honestly don't know, but he was. I always thought he was a good hockey player. He had a pretty good stretch with the Sabres at one point. And I was really excited when he came over last year. It just he never developed into a consistent um, presence in the lineup. So, yeah, that kind of
Yeah,
sucks.
he's playing in the AHL right now with the Milwaukee Admirals.
Which is
Um,
Chicago
no, or maybe
or Carolina.
Milwaukee Admirals. I'll have to look it up. But
Well,
so
Snail's
he
looking
is.
that up. A stick tap to Penguin legend Justin Schultz on a fantastic career. He retired over the weekend. He was going to play in Switzerland, and I guess it wasn't working out, so he has hung up the skates. Two-time Stanley Cup champion, Justin Schultz, and they do not win the second cup without him in any form or fashion. So,
No, hell no. He was amazing. They're the Nashville Predators. So he's in the
oh, he's in
Predators
the Nashville
organization.
organization.
Probably
Okay,
should give
okay.
him a look
I
at this
mean, it
point.
can't be much worse.
Yeah, but I was I was gonna bring this up. My friend never listens to our podcast. Very rarely he does. But I was actually with the Penguins played the Kings tonight. My buddy is a diehard Kings fan, and I remember I used to taunt him all the time by saying that the Penguins should pick up the now Penguin Blake Lizotte for years. And I went back in our text thread on Instagram. There's a way you can
Oh,
actually
jeez.
look up, you can type in a name or
Like
you can
a
type in a
word search,
word,
yeah.
a
Yeah.
word search on a profile, and you can actually see in your conversations. Back on December 8th, 2019, I suggested a trade with the LA Kings for I think it was 2019. Alex Galchenyuk for Austin Wagner and Blake Lizotte.
Austin
And
Wagner, holy moly.
Austin Wagner actually was a part of the Penguins organization for a preseason game, and then they end up getting Lizotte this over the offseason. So didn't come to fruition the way that I suggested it did, but I did have to rub it in his face and send him a screenshot that the Penguins did eventually acquire, where he said to that trade, absolutely no way.
Oh yeah, I mean Lizotte, and they did it. Somebody in Pittsburgh interviewed Lizotte, and he basically figured he was going to be a king for life. That what he was set on, and then they didn't qualify him over the summer, and he ended up being a free agent. Came to Pittsburgh, and he seems to be thriving in the Steel City. So we're glad to have him. Hopefully, he keeps producing. We said it to be when he was signed that this could be the signing of the offseason, and so far he has proven us correct. So big, uh, big performance from him this season. Hopefully, he can stay healthy too.
It's actually funny. I'm looking back at this text thread. This was back in uh, October 8th, 2019. So 2 months before my Lizotte bartering suggestion. He had sent me a thing of the Kings winning. It was actually the game. I think his debut was the game where Doughty gives the old Hulk Hogan to the crowd, and he
Oh,
says
okay.
he says here we got a new guy that can wheel, and I was like who? And he's like Lizotte, little speedy guy. He was buzzing, and I was just like yeah. I said something about the Calgary Kings rivalry that because they played Calgary that game, and only 2 months later I suggested the Penguins ought to take a look at this Lizotte kid and try to pick him from the Kings. It only took 5 years, but he is in black and gold now, and we love him.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I would not hate for um, this to continue. He's been great in Pittsburgh, and fingers crossed we keep him here for as long as possible.
As long as possible. He's still really young, and like, God, if they can just get Boris Kachuk a look with the big club, we
Absolutely,
might
that's
be
what we
really
need.
on to something.
That
We
is
might
what
be
we need.
cup contenders.
Yeah, Rod is here. He's under contract for another year yet. So yeah, hopefully he can continue to produce for the Penguins and can be. He's only 27, so hopefully he can be a guy that produces for a long time at Pittsburgh. Hopefully he's a part of this uh, Crosby era, but at a Crosby era that's still at least taking some runs at winning. So
Agreed. I was gonna
well,
ask you quickly here before we get off.
yeah,
Um, the Penguins, are they home through the Christmas break?
no, they're away on Thursday and Saturday, then home on Monday.
Okay.
against the Flyers, and then Christmas.
They don't come out west, do they?
They will again in. Hold on here. They have to go to Seattle yet this year, or well, they are in Seattle on January 25th. It's a 4 o'clock, 1 o'clock game your time.
Interesting.
It's
Okay.
a Saturday.
Sounds good.
Yeah, they have a whole. They go uh, LA. Well, they actually have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 game road trip. A part of all this: Buffalo, Washington, LA, Anaheim, Seattle, San Jose, Utah.
A lot of points available that off the Buffalo Sabres is a mandatory 2 points.
They are bad. They got routed tonight by someone.
They lost again.
Montreal beat them 6-1.
All like they were that was like I'm not going to be last in the league for long.
Yeah,
That's the toilet
yeah.
bowl right now.
Is
Oh, dude, Sabres, like I mean, what do you even do
I
as
don't
a
know. I don't know if you just completely blow it up and start from scratch. I don't know. But they've tried that before and it hasn't worked. I mean, they had Jack Eichel at one point. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. I think that's just it gets into almost a you got to sell the team kind of mentality. It's
are they the
broken.
new Coyotes?
I mean, they still turn out fans. They still have a pretty
Yeah.
dedicated fan base in Buffalo, so they're not like in threat of moving. But man, you got to nuke it. I think.
Well, I mean, they drafted impeccably too. Like
Yeah,
they
I mean you
had
had
Eichel, Reinhardt. They traded for Montour. They traded for Ryan O'Reilly. They
Omar. They have
have
Linus Olmark.
they had Linus Olmark. They have Tage Thompson squandering just an impeccable player who found his game oddly enough in Buffalo.
Yeah,
They've got that Dylan Cousins kid. I love that kid's game. Dylan Cousins, Zach Benson. They have 2 first overall pick defensemen on their blue line right now in Owen Power and
yeah,
Rasmus Dahlin. That's two for. They're the Oilers of right now.
yeah.
Those
They
years.
really need to figure something out. They should have all the talent, but they cannot figure out what to do with it.
Oh, and signing Lindy Ruff to be their coach again out of
That
all
was a mistake. Yeah,
that was so weird. Like, why not just be patient? I don't know. Super strange stuff out of Buffalo. Keep them 10-foot pole away from me. I don't want any of that juju. Just even the Penguins have had a rough year enough. Just I've had enough.
yeah,
We don't need that. The Penguins need 2 points from them. Do not give them any life.
yeah,
But anyways, Robbie, I could keep chatting about hockey all night. I think
yeah.
we both got work in the morning. I got to go
Yep.
watch more hockey. This was a good episode. It's
It
always
was.
nice to watch the Penguins take 2 points from
They do.
a
Yep.
better team. That's all I got.
All right. So as Snail said, the Penguins do take 2 points away from the Los Angeles Kings this evening. A 3-2 overtime win, a comeback overtime win as well. They are off Wednesday. They will be back on Thursday, as will we. They are in Nashville to take on the lowly Predators. So hopefully
Mandatory
we are
2 points.
mandatory 2 points. So hopefully we're talking victory on Thursday night as well, like we are tonight. So for Snail, I'm Robbie. We will talk to you guys later in the week.